Hello, welcome to another weekly update. Hope you're keeping well and everything is going good in your world. A couple of things to talk about when it comes to Microsoft Teams platform development and sort of the wider story around Microsoft Graph as well, and some other things. So first thing I want to tell you about is a blog post. So no really big a couple of interesting announcements for the tech to talk about this week. The first thing I want to talk through, though, is a bit of training material, and that's a blog post from the Microsoft Teams developer blog, and it's all about building Microsoft Teams applications, which is obviously something I talk about a lot. I've done lots of blog posts on, lots of kind of videos about as well, but it's good to kind of see a lot of that boiled down into a sort of concise, this is a 10-minute read blog post. And it's from Microsoft as well, so it's interesting to kind of see the things they pull out as important. And it's actually going to be a 3-part blog series that they're writing. This is the first part. It's written by somebody called Erin Bailey, and she has gone through and pulled out. This is the first one, focusing on building. Or sort of focus on providing good best practices, basically, for building kind of high quality applications inside Microsoft Teams. And it kind of starts with really kind of trying to ground yourself in figuring out what it is you're doing, the problems you're trying to solve, the UI design, and the kind of things that you can do. So starting off right at the beginning with, here are the extensibility points, here are the places that you can add your code into Microsoft Teams, and then some kind of best practices for things. So the best practices are interesting, actually. There's a lot of guidance around how to build good Teams applications. I've written some of it, I've presented some of it, I've done blog posts about it. And these 3 questions are quite good, actually, to kind of ask yourself, are you building for a collaborative scenario? So the questions are things like, does the app allow 2 or more users to communicate as they complete a task in Teams? So if you've built something that, you complete an action or something in Teams, is it built in such a way that the users can use Teams to communicate and collaborate with each other as they're getting that task done? Can all scenarios be completed in the Teams experience without directing to the browser? Sometimes this is not possible, but if it is possible, if you can keep the user inside Teams, you'll make them more productive because you keep them inside the place where they're already spending a lot of time working, doing that collaboration. So if you can keep them inside Teams, you're reducing context switching as well, which is super important. And the final question she asks are, do link targets open elements like tabs or task modules instead of opening a browser window? So yeah, again, it's using the full sort of range of tools in the toolkit for Teams platform development, making sure that you're doing things like using task modules. If you just need to pop open some content, don't do it in any browser window. You can keep the user inside Teams again. So, yep. And then she also goes on to talk about bots and provides some kind of interesting information around bots. I actually think there's lots more to be said about bots. I think that's something that I might do this year. I've got a lot of stuff in my head, and a lot of notes I've already made on writing good bots and designing good bots. So yeah, I'm going to take that and think about how the best way to package and present that is. And she also talks through task modules and adaptive cards as well, with some kind of screenshots, and a lot of these sections have links as well to more guidance to the documentation, really, as well. So yeah, great to see this. Excited for the other 2 parts as well. I think it's good, Microsoft leading into pro development. This is kind of really pro development. So you can think of Microsoft Teams development in kind of a few different camps. The pro development is the one I'm most interested about. It's the tabs, it's the bots, it's the messaging extensions, it's the developers writing code. There's also the Power Platform side. Not to take anything away from that. It's just, as a kind of pro developer, I suppose, I'm more interested in that side of things than the Power Platform side, but the Power Platform side stuff is super interesting as well. But it's aimed at a different audience. It's more of a low code kind of method of building applications in Teams. All right, so that's that. Go and read that blog post. It's only 10 minutes long, and you might, even if you know everything there is to know about Microsoft Teams development, you might pick up some kind of tips from that as well, some things to think about for your next project. Next thing, so Microsoft Graph, obviously a crucially important resource for Teams developers, repository of information, ways to get stuff done, either inside Teams to get, creating channels and messages and all the rest of it, or even just as part of your Teams application. You might use Graph to go and get additional data about a user or about something else that's associated. So kind of an important part of the puzzle. I've talked lots about change notifications, also called webhooks. I've talked about this previously, how they're a good way of getting data out of Graph, especially data at scale that changes very quickly, or you need to react to it very quickly. It's a much nicer model than polling for data. Now there's a separate, so that's change notifications. There's been a preview program running around getting those change notifications delivered to you directly to Event Hubs. So right now with change notifications, you can go and make a subscription to receive change notifications for various things, of which kind of call content is one of them. Meeting chat is one. Like you can get information about chats in meetings and channels, channel chat. You can get files that have been added, users that have been there's all sorts of things that you can subscribe to change notifications for. But traditionally, you'd write some code to create a subscription. It's a kind of post request, and then the system, the Graph system, would call your API back to deal with the payload of any new change for you to deal with. This is a slightly different model that's been in public preview for a little while, which delivers those change notifications directly to Azure Event Hubs. So you don't have to write any code, basically, which is great. The less code we can have throughout the solution, the less code to go wrong and to break. So this is good that you can kind of go directly from Microsoft Graph subscription directly to Azure Event Hubs, because likely you're probably going to want to move your data through Azure anyway. So having it go straight into Azure Event Hubs means it's in the right place and you didn't have to write any code. There's no code to look after and maintain as well. So it's nice to see. So we've got that. So this public preview program has now gone GA. So you can now, in a GA way, a generally available way, have your Microsoft Graph change notifications delivered directly through Azure Event Hubs. So that's really nice. We know it will scale that way as well. You won't have any scale problems because Azure Event Hubs will scale to kind of really the busiest Teams tenant when it comes to, say, call wrap up or channel chat or content of channels and meetings and files and all the rest of it. Won't be any problem at all, really. So yeah, really nice. Kind of good to see. I guess a few things that are different and are worth kind of calling out. The way you actually do it. There's a link. Let me just show you what I was looking at. So this is the blog post. It's on the Microsoft Graph developer blog to just kind of talk through the stuff I've already talked through. What is interesting though is if you go to this link here, get change notifications delivered in different ways. This steps through exactly how to set up Event Hub. If you've never done it before, how to set up Key Vault. You do need to set up Key Vault. The reason for doing that is that when you create the subscription, if you've created a subscription for these change notifications before, then you'll be familiar with the notification URL, which is where the subscription will call back to your API. So you replace that with this structure, which is kind of slightly odd, but it's a link to the Vault and the Azure Key Vault, and specifically to the secret with your tenant ID as well. You have to give it to that in that format. That means that the Graph, the change notification engine, if you like, in Graph, has access to that because you've granted it access up here. This Microsoft Graph change tracking identity is what I guess gets used. So that then has access to access Key Vault. Key Vault then has access to I think that's where you put in the credentials for your event. Where is it? I can't even see now. You set the primary connection string of your Event Hub inside Key Vault. So that means it can go pull out the connection string, and that means it can then push your data into Event Hub. So it's a little bit convoluted, and you might think, like I did when I first read this, I don't need Key Vault if I'm just testing it out. Maybe that's good for production, it's the right thing to do, but actually if I just want to try this out, I can just spin up an Event Hub and have it work. No, you actually do need to give the notification URL that you give for subscription creation is the Key Vault URL. So you do need to set up Key Vault, kind of an important gotcha there. And yeah, so that's interesting. That's new. That's now generally available. So if you've been holding off using it whilst it's been in public preview, if you're setting up subscriptions and you're taking the data and you're then pushing it into Azure, I would absolutely go and have a look at this to see if you can get away with either removing some code that you've already written, or if you're just starting out, not even needing to write some code at all. So that's what I'd do. And finally, last thing to tell you about is there's a Microsoft Teams AMA coming up. So AMA is Ask Microsoft Anything. It's a kind of an open forum, and you can ask as many kind of questions as you want. This one is kind of specifically around breakout rooms. So if you've got questions about breakout rooms, then please bring them to the event. It's on April 14th. I'll put a link to the announcement from the Tech Communities. You can also submit your questions. I'm not sure if this is the right thing to do, but like people are already doing it, so why not? You can sort of pre-submit your questions by replying to the discussion post that's been posted in the forum. So you can do that to get your questions in. Otherwise, turn up on the day and kind of add them into the Q&A. They're normally done in a kind of webinar space or like a live event. There's a Q&A section as well. It's normally well staffed by Microsoft staff. It's good to have some of the product owners and PMs and other support staff and stuff on hand. So they're interesting just to attend anyway. So this one I think is I'm just having a look now actually. This one's going to be held on the Tech Community site. Which is Tech Community, so it isn't going to be like a Microsoft Teams meeting with like voice and video and stuff. I think it's just going to be text based. So you can go there though and kind of get your questions in, and during that kind of time, the team will be on hand to kind of answer them and turn them around quickly as well. So yeah, sounds good. If you've got breakout room questions or even general questions, it's worth kind of asking them sometimes as well. If they run out of breakout room questions, sometimes they'll kind of go a bit more generalist as well and start looking at those. But yeah. So that's happening next week as well. I think that's everything that's happening that I'm aware of that's going on. Some other things happening kind of as well, but nothing ready to report particularly. We've got dates for Build announced as well. So let me just find out when they are. So Mary Jo Foley has announced this. She wrote it up. Sorry. It's going to be May 25th to the 27th. So what's that? Little over, a month and a half away, something like that, just under 2 months. So we'll see some announcements for sure. Build is Microsoft Developer Conference. It's going to be online again this year, which is good because I wouldn't normally attend Build necessarily in person. I'm sort of planning on attending it virtually this year, which is nice. Get a chance to do that. So that will be good. And we'll have to see if it brings any new announcements for Microsoft Teams development. There haven't really been any really big announcements, I don't think, for Teams platform for a while. So I think in-meeting applications was the last big one sort of announced back end of last year, and then kind of really came out in Ignite earlier this year. We'll see if there's anything interesting at Build. All right, I think that's everything from me. So have a great weekend, whatever it is you're doing, and I will talk to you again next time.